You are entering the cosmos.
Okay, everybody ready? Places, please. Lights. Camera. And action.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another live edition of Offstage. I am your host, Renee Uworski, and I am particularly titillated, excited, and giddy tonight because I am a fan of the two guests that we have. I am a huge fan of their latest project, which the link is up above or down below, depending on where you're watching. You can watch it right after this broadcast. It's called Love's Baby Soft. Yes, that sounds familiar because that's the iconic 70s perfume brand, but they banded together to do something awesome and innovative, and it's going to really stick with you. So I encourage everybody to visit that YouTube link that is right here in the description. But first, you're going to get to see the creators themselves. This is a husband and wife power duo. They work together, they play together. We're going to talk all about it. Stacie Capone, who's an actress and a producer, and her husband, Don Downie, who is a director, a writer, and another producer. And they have their own micro studio called Small Media Extra Large. Isn't that cool? Small Media Extra Large. Very awesome. I want to play a little clip from Love's Baby Soft, which is the short film that you can watch right after this broadcast on YouTube.
How long you guys been together?
Maybe too long.
You like it when he French kisses you? Is that all they do? Stick things inside you?
Never really thought about it like that. Sex isn't everything, you know. At least not to everyone.
My mom told me all about it.
She's very knowledgeable at age 12. Here are the producers of that and the creators, Stacie and Don. Hi, guys.
Hi. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. It's impossible not to smile when we watch that clip. And
Yeah.
honestly, the entire film, I was grinning ear to ear. I watched it 3 times. I love it. I want the series. I want to get deep into the characters. These characters are so vivid and colorful. The acting is phenomenal. The soundtrack immediately transports you in time and space. It is very believable. And the emotion, the dynamic, the relationships are very authentic and believable. Talk a little bit about how this project came into being.
Yes, sure. So during the pandemic, a producer that I had worked with before brought the script to both Don and I, and we read it. And I love the 70s. I want to play a mom in the 70s.
Me too.
Like, great.
Sure.
You know, the clothes, the blue eyeshadow. And so it was originally a pilot is what they brought to us. And, you know, it's hard to make a whole 30-minute pilot. So we worked with the writer, Vicky Spiegel, on creating a proof of concept for the series.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And a lot goes into that. I'm an executive producer on Aaron Carter's last project, which we did a pilot for a mental health sitcom. Sounds a little paradoxical, but named Group. And it was his last project. So we're trying to get that off the ground. We already shot it about a month before he passed away. But I know what goes into it. It's a lot of effort and a lot of work to get this on the screen. How did you go about coordinating? How did you come across? How did you, how did you pick out who you wanted to cast and everything like that?
Well, so I run a women in film group called the Filmmakers, and they were very instrumental in helping us make the project. I brought on a director that was part of the group, and Lanny Zapoy, and one of the other filmmakers, Laura Dowling Shea, provided the location. And casting, actually, one of the co-producers, Sophia Epimentis, she had seen Alexa Swinton in Emergence, which was an ABC show. And she said to me, this is who we think would be a great pick for your daughter. And I checked out Alexa's website, and it was the best website I've seen. It was singer, dancer, musician, entrepreneur. Like, I was, this woman, this 12-year-old girl is
right.
I need to reach out to her. So I looked her up, and I found that her mother, Ina Swinton, is also an actress, a writer, and a producer. So I reached out to her via email and was like, hey, we have the script for this proof of concept called Love's Baby Soft. We would love to see if Alexa would be interested. And, the rest is history.
She is so convincing. I mean, the acting is incredible. Talk a little bit about the directing. How are you evoking that from these actors? Do they, how much work are you putting in? Talk a little bit about the directing style behind this film.
We have to speak a little bit for our director. Lanny Zapoy, who directed the film, unfortunately passed away since we made it.
Yeah.
And so, which, is always a hard thing to talk about, but
Yes.
She did a really, really brilliant job working with Stacie and Alexa, especially on bringing out the performances in this like really special mother-daughter relationship. That's like one important part of the triangle of this story. And then also with Cheyenne Tomlinson. Yes.
Yeah. Who plays Cleo, the babysitter.
Yeah.
Right.
I think, we had a lot of conversations beforehand. We did a reading beforehand, and we all talked about our characters. And Lanny had a very clear vision of who the mother was. And so did Vicky Spiegel, the writer. Like they had discussed, they didn't want Janice to be a nagging mother. Like that is not who this character is. She loves her daughter. She just is overworked. She's a single mom in the 70s, which, maybe wasn't that common. So how can we portray Janice as caring, but overworked?
Right.
But she has this relationship with her daughter that is important.
Yeah. And she's definitely there to guide. I mean, she's very interested. She has like the 9 o'clock bedtime. She definitely wants to do all of that, but she's also caring and compassionate. And she also knows how to do the whole friendship thing in a way. So she's definitely a parent. She's doing her job. And at the same time, she's able to relate to her daughter in a way that I think most of us, when we were 12, we kind of long for that great balance there. And so it's a very likable role. Everybody in the film is very likable. Babysitter, talk a little bit about her, because she's striking to look at. Her responses, her physical responses, her body language. You can read so much. Like there's a moment where Dolores, who's 12, tries to get this cigarette across the table, and just through her eyes, the babysitter's letting her know, no, you're not able to do that. And the babysitter is also having a coming of age, I don't know if we want to reveal that or not, but there's a dynamic going on, also a tension in her life. So in a way, you get to see a few years older and then the 12-year-old wrestling with that. But yeah, talk a little bit about the role of the babysitter, because to me, that was a captivating role.
Yes. And what's really interesting is the babysitter actually changed a lot from the pilot to the short film. Mm-hmm. When Vicky Spiegel brought Love's Baby Soft to us, the script, all of the characters were white. which, is the film, the pilot itself is a reflection of Vicky's childhood, of where she grew up and how she grew up. But both Don and I talked about it with Vicky and said, what if this reflected society today a little bit more? Mm-hmm. What if we changed the race of some of the characters? What would happen if the babysitter was a Black woman? And yeah,
the 70s also offered us like a really cool opportunity to do that, because like I won't speak for Stacie. I was a little kid in the 70s. Our writer and director both were little kids in the 70s. We all have these memories of both our childhood and like the world as sort of TV portrayed it to us as kids. Right. And there was this moment in the 70s of this Black is Beautiful movement, right, of like a sort of precursor to like representation in media today. And it was a very imperfect precursor, certainly, if you look back on it. It's also time of blaxploitation films and all kinds of things. But there is also this really, really cool image that I remember being little, of this icon of like Black culture. And it was fun to put that into this story of, a young girl who is looking up to her teenage babysitter, and also having this whole added element to it that came on because of the difference in their race.
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned that. I love when the race is cast almost after the script. I think that's always really interesting. And it was cool because I'm going to ask you about the soundtrack, but the soundtrack to me kind of pulled everything together. It made me instantly think 70s. But I also, from the very beginning, even before I saw The Babysitter, I thought, oh, is there going to be like an African-American representative? Because that soundtrack is such a great pulse of the whole film. And there's a great moment. And I wanted to ask you about the casting, because Dolores is on the phone with her friend and talking and complaining about how the babysitter is hogging the television. And the friend says, well, what does she look like? And she's like, I don't care what she looks like, And I thought that was so cool, particularly for the 70s. And I like how you are modeling that sort of attitude in a way. I don't know if I'm coming across, but it was just very clear that the babysitter's persona is just, it's unique. There's something about her as an individual that she's bringing to the table.
There's one cool thing that happened in the development of this project is, as Stacie mentioned earlier, the part of the backstory of this was Vicky Spiegel, the writer's autobiography. Like she actually had a babysitter when she was a kid and had, like a sense of similar feelings. And then as the project developed and that babysitter became a Black woman, when Lanny came onto the project, when she was a kid, she had a Black babysitter in, I think in
Memphis. She grew up in Memphis.
In the South.
Yes.
And had all the experiences of like a little bit of a difference in values, but I think between her family and the world around her. And it's just a taste of it there in the film, but magical happenstance.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and that's obviously what will be explored in the series. If it gets picked up and we start to explore it in the series, it's going to be like these two women's lives, how they're separate and how they are together, and the differences between, being Black in the 70s, being white in the 70s, how they can come together, and that.
Right. Yeah, there's so much more to explore. You're setting the stage. So for people outside of the industry, like I said, I'm working with a pilot right now. You have this, it's really a pilot. When you talk about getting picked up, how can the regular fan of this help to aid in that endeavor? And also, like, what does that mean? So talk a little bit about that process and where you're at right now.
Sure. So right now, the writer, Vicky Spiegel, is out. She's pitching it. We're helping her to pitch it. We're looking for, networks or streaming networks like Tubi or, places like that would be interested in developing the series with us. And I think how fans can help, honestly, is by watching the pilot or the proof of concept, our short, commenting, making comments on the YouTube page, sharing it with their friends, because people are, the larger your audience, the more of an interest it is to those higher up people.
Absolutely. Yes. So everybody watching this right now, please click on that link I dare you to stop watching. I mean, I clicked on it, and like I said, I've watched it 3 times. It's very, and the colors too. It's just very captivating. Just the colors and the soundtrack and everything about it. I love Dolores's shirt that she's wearing. I instantly think 70s,
Right.
and it's such a cool retro thing. But then you get to extrapolate into any generation and coming of age. And I know there was something about, it's the Wonder Years from a female standpoint.
Yes.
And coming of age, like age 12 is such a critical year. Everything about it resonated with me. I mean, there she is, she's wondering about her body. She's curious about what it's like to have a boyfriend. What is the dynamic between getting a boyfriend and like what they do to you or with you? And I don't know if it carries over to boys, but I think it would. I think it would be. I mean, Dawn can weigh in a little bit.
What's funny is surprising the amount of people that came up to us at festivals that were men that really enjoyed the film. That was like, I can really relate to this. And I think that, as Vicky puts it, like everyone has that awkward stage.
Yes.
It's just, this touches that.
I think it's absolutely a universal experience to be just at that point in your adolescence where it's like your self-image and your body just don't match.
Right.
And you just have to like wait through that time. And I think it's like the hardest thing. And I think many of us wait through that time our whole lives, right?
Absolutely. And it's great too, I think it's great for men to see, because I grew up with the Wonder Years and the male narrative has been so represented. And I think it's so cool that men get to watch this and sort of get into the female mindset and say, oh my gosh, I can relate. Like, we didn't know that the girls were going through the same stuff we were going through. And I think it's like, there's a healing there by building that bridge. And I also love the absence of social media, being 12 without social media. And so she's trying to get intel by the older babysitter, whereas today they just, go on Google or whatever. And what was that like too? Was that really a cathartic thing for you guys to sort of go back in time and remember a time where we weren't connected to our iPhones all day long?
Yes. I mean, sometimes I wish we could go back. It's to not have, I mean, it's like double-edged, right? Like to not have that pressure from the social media and seeing everyone doing all the things that you want to be doing all the time is like relaxing if you just didn't have to look at that. But then also you don't have the connection to everyone at any moment if you needed someone. I think like Alexa Swinton, like she talked about how she could be out at the mall and see someone that she doesn't like, and she could immediately text her friend and say, oh my goodness, can you believe who is here right now?
Yes.
Where we just kind of have to keep, when we were kids, we just had to keep that inside and be like, oh my God, until you went home and then you used your landline to call someone.
Right.
And then you remember, and then you had to wait for the phone.
Yeah.
And like,
right. And share the phone with everyone in your household too.
Right.
Another thing though that I think that's really great that writer Vicky Spiegel put into this script is that in the absence of a lot of modern media, a lot of social media, so much of Dolores, the main character's point of view and self-image comes out of the magazines and the products. And like, it was really important to us to kind of like plaster her walls with things that were, the yardstick by which she was comparing herself.
Right. Oh, that's right. It was almost like a subliminal thing. You're right. I was really looking at it. I was almost entranced by the way that you had her room. It looked like every room I've ever seen in the 70s and the 80s. And you're right. Yeah, about comparing herself, and then she's measuring herself, and it's all that early insecurity and what we do with it. And I think it's universal, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's so cool. And then the name, of course, and the product, Love's Baby Soft. Instantly we think of the time period and the era. It's just a fantastic thing. So again, I'm encouraging everyone to look at that. And then I want to talk a little bit about your dynamic as a husband and wife duo. You're a power couple. What is that like, working together and playing together and everything in between? And how did that develop?
Yes. Well, we actually met as actors. Don also used to act as well. And when we met, I was like, I don't date actors. Well, so we got married.
The rest is history.
Yes. And you know, we were both doing some film and television school, and that's actually how we met. And we went on, we decided, I don't know, we just got along really well. And so
part of our dynamic from the very beginning was that we made things together.
Yeah.
Like the very first thing, we sort of got cast together in a scene, and we did a scene together, and we just kind of kept going.
Yeah.
We ended up making with some friends like one of the first web series in the earliest days of YouTube and other video services, and that was the thing that launched the idea of like, maybe we can keep working together, and we started a company together, and we did another series for Viacom, and we little by little have sort of built this into a company and a career over all that time.
Right. And do you like what happens when you guys are fighting? Does it get personal? Or do you stay professional? How do you walk that balance between your relationship?
We never fight.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm not Italian. I mean, I think on set, we're very professional. Sometimes people don't even realize that we're married for a while. And then they're surprised when, I don't know, we leave together or something. But
they say, "Oh, are you dating?" It's like, no, actually, married.
Like, oh, the producer and the director are leaving together. How did that happen?
Let's call TMZ.
Yeah. But I mean, for the most part, I say this all the time. Like when we first met, we would finish each other's sentences. Like when we like in the first month of like meeting each other, I would say something and he would be like, "Wait, I was just going to say that." Or he would say something and I was like, "Get out of my brain." And it'd be like random things. Right. So I think that helps with we just have like one brain that's just shared between the two of us. And so we're always thinking alike, like and it just works. So we work well together. Yes, there's fighting. We keep that offset.
It helps a lot that we love what we do, that we're both like obsessed with making films and making content, and that it's there's not a tremendous line between our professional lives and our personal lives, but we're both sort of the people that we're passionate about making this stuff all the time. And so I don't know, that's a thing that maybe would cause a conflict in another relationship. That for us, it's just like, what's next? What are we working on? Where I for one am only really happy when I've got something that I'm working on.
And it's also helpful that Don writes really amazing female characters. So
that's very hard to do as a man. I will tell you, I scrutinize male whenever they do that, because there's so many. Don, you get it right, but there are so many, right, Stacie, that you read it and you're like, you what? Think that's our dialogue, our inner dialogue? You think that's what we think? Oh, it's really bad. So yes, that's a big selling point.
I do okay, but I've got someone in house who will call me on it immediately.
If she's there to make sure. Well, I love how you talk about how you share, you work together and you love together, and that line is kind of blurred, you said, and that is so helpful. And I'll tell you one of the many reasons why being so similar and sharing interests is helpful. There's a lot of people, particularly in the arts, who, when they end up with someone who is like not interested in the arts, so they're not interested in performance and writing and entertainment generally, they have a thing where they'll like hold them back, and then there's a guilt trip, and so the person tends to go small. In the entertainment industry, you do have work ethic is a big thing, and going all in. I mean, if you kind of just do half measure, I don't know that it can really work. It's a strange animal, show business. And I think show people get other show people. And I think it's hard to really share on an intimate level with someone who doesn't understand what makes you tick. I mean, you guys I talk a little bit individually about how you came into entertainment, your backgrounds, how you got into acting to begin with. Where was that passion for both of you?
Well, when I was in second grade, my teacher gave out an oval piece of construction paper to the whole class, and she said, draw what you want to be when you grow up. So I drew myself with red hair on a stage. The red hair didn't work out. I tried, but I've been, on a stage ever since. So
that's a great story. I love that. Don, what about you?
for me, I think that I have been living in a world of make-believe from the time that I was a little kid. And it's just something that I never grew out of. I was that kid that could be watching something on the television. You could come in and you could say something like right in my ear, and I would not be able to hear it at all. I was completely tuned in. I still am.
He still is. Yeah.
And it took me a while to find theater, and then I spent some time as an actor and director in theater in New York. And as soon as I got cast in something as an actor on camera, I got on set and immediately fixated on everything that was happening on the other side of the camera, and fell like head over heels in love for like, I was going to say second time in life, one of the times in my life, with the idea of making films. And
Right.
we spent, our early years together were kind of like an informal film school, where we just learned how to make stuff, and we'd make something and say, that was neat. I wish we could have done this. And then we would make something else and do it a little better, and just keep kind of going and going and going.
Yeah. I mean, I went to school. I mean, we both did. We went to school for theater, for acting. But as an actor, I think you get out of school and you are basically left with, well, now what do I do? Because you don't really get the skills, the business skills at university, usually. I mean, some people maybe do now. But at the time, I walked out of school with, okay, great. So I can memorize some monologues. Now what? And that's when I started taking classes at a film and television school, which is where I met Don. And then we decided, hey, let's get our friends together because we're all interested in this film thing. Let's get our friends together and work every week. And so that's what we did. And then we decided we're really into the camera. How can we learn more? And so we, with this group of people, it was called the Professional Actors Collective, or Proactive for short, because he names things. We made a film a month for a year. So we made 11 short films in 1 year.
That is a huge undertaking. That's got to be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right?
I mean, we kind of, we every month, like we would be working on something different with this group of actors, and someone would write that month. And so we'd be reading the script every week and making adjustments to it, and then figuring out whose apartment we would film at, and who was going to do sound and who was going to do what. And I mean, and we all learned what we were good at.
Yeah. Some were great, some were
bad,
aspired to be great, but we learned a lot about like ourselves and about what we wanted to do. And it also, I think, laid the cornerstone for something that I think is still a big part of what Stacie and I do, which is very much like a community-based approach to making content in film. And, that is how we come together and make indie projects like Love's Baby Soft, but it's also how we come together with Small Media Extra Large. We do a lot of client work, and we work for companies in tech and media and culture and fashion. And we have an aesthetic of like, hey, this is a great project. Like, we know all these great people that can do it. Like, let's put the pirate ship gang of crazy indie filmmakers together and let's make something really great for this client this month. And everybody gets paid. And then next month we'll shake it up and make a short film or a web series with those folks.
Right.
Says hi.
Hi, doggy. We call those canine cameos. So we just had a canine cameo. We love that.
Yes.
This is your micro studio, Small Media Extra Large, and you guys have had some really big names as clients, including Meta. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? I mean, clearly you are beloved by some of the best brands out there. How did you get to that level, and what do you think these brands are responding to?
So what do the brands respond to? I think I think it kind of goes back to our sense of community and the fact that we're nimble, that we can do things quickly, but also efficiently and creatively. And we always bring the best to every project. So I think it's like we're able to put together a really great team for each client that fits the client perfectly.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's, a lot of the companies that we work for are very big companies in tech and media, and one of the specialties we've carved out for ourselves is being able to make specialized content that is a little more bite-sized and is a little more indie size, and then bringing like the sort of resources to it to make like really, really professional content. We always used to joke that there are ad agencies out there, and we would be able to make an entire commercial for the cost of like what they spend on craft services for a commercial sometimes. But it is kind of true. Like, I think that the machine gets big enough and it gets just harder and harder to find a way to think small to make like a right-sized project, especially in the digital space, which is really where we cut our teeth. And we've been able to continue that forward with bigger and bigger projects and bigger clients.
Yeah, exactly. And, and short content rules the world right now. I mean, that's what the algorithms are rewarding. That's where most of the viewers go. People really like those bite-sized things. And also the micro audience also is another thing, tapping into your niche audience and getting those fanatic fans who get really interested in what you're doing. So you guys are kind of doing everything right, I think, particularly for harnessing the contemporary world of media. You guys know exactly what you're doing to stay relevant. And also, again, that eye-catching content, like you said, quality content. It's just beautiful content that anyone would be proud of. But I think another strength is both of you are so passionate about what you do, and it's the family business. So you don't have to, that's another thing I think clients are looking for, or I would look for if I was trying to collaborate with somebody. I would want somebody who was all in, and they're, everyone around them supported what they were doing. It's like you're actually expanding your day by being this family business, because you're not really checking out at night. This isn't really a job. It might be more of a vocation, or you guys just living your passion. Do you think that really comes through? Because to me, it comes through just from talking with you.
Thank you. And yes, I mean, we often we make our sets a family. Like the people that we hire them for a reason, because we believe in them. Wow. Because we want them to be able to show how great they are. So we are able to trust, we know everyone we hire, we trust them to do their best. We know what they can bring to a project, and we let them do their work. Like, yes, we're there to oversee, we're there to answer questions, but we trust that they know what they're doing. And we often have clients come back to us and say, that was, and other people that work for us, that was the best set I've ever been on. Like, if you ever, like, we've had like PAs come up to us at the end and be like, if you ever need anything, you just call me. I would love to work for you again. Because
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. The entertainment industry is a relationship business, but I think that the bigger things get, a lot of times that gets lost in the business side of it. And for Stacie and I, everything is about relationships. Like we're really plugged into the people we work with, and we try to bring that sort of relationship and sense of family to both our content projects and our client projects.
And at the end of the day, it's not rocket science. We're making art, and it should be fun, right? Yeah. Like, let's all have a good time doing what we love. And, maybe we could change some minds, and once it's finished, like, when it's out there in the world,
Absolutely. We have a question about, for the audience about, do you have any advice for people who want to go into show business, but they don't have the same support, emotional support from their family that you have? They don't have each other. In other words, it takes a lot of courage, to go into show business. What's your advice for someone who's young, or maybe not even young? Maybe they want to try a second career this way, but it's so terrifying.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Yes.
My first advice is always to, rather than waiting for permission or waiting for someone else to make something with you, is to start making something yourself. And we live in this time when you can pick up a phone and make something for $0 that's actually pretty great if that's the place where you are. And hopefully you build and you build and you get bigger, but don't wait. Start making things. The making of content, of material that reflects you and reflects your passion will then help you to gather around yourself the people who become that community, that sense of chosen family that will help support you and will help you get to the next place. And I think the other big thing, especially as you're starting out, is also to remember that show business feels very, very competitive.
Right.
But it's not a competition.
Right.
And the people who are the most successful and the most delightful to work with in this industry are always people who are always looking to kind of yes and your success and yes and their success and kind of build and grow something together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the time of the phone and the social media and, you know, the internet, you can go to as many networking events as you can, even if you're afraid. Maybe you don't, maybe just talk to one person the first time you go. Maybe the second time you talk to two people. But getting out there and mingling with people that are in the creative industry is where, and talking about what you want to do or what you're passionate about is how you'll find your like-minded people. And then maybe you meet them again and then you talk about a project and then that's where things come up. I think it's just finding your community and having that.
Yeah. And nowadays with the internet, you can find your tribe so much easier, right? And I always tell people that you have to be able to collaborate and delegate and have relationship. It's all about relationship. You can be as talented as you want, but if you don't know how to branch out and actually communicate with other people, work with other people, be a good team player, it's really hard to make quality content and to get stuff out there. You know, a lot of it is based on trust and former experiences. I can't tell you how many people have gotten some kind of a dream role or their big breakout role just because someone remembered them from a commercial they had done, like, you know, years ago. But it's all about relationship. And I think they teach that now a little bit in a lot of the acting classes, a lot of the intro to acting. They'll say, remember, it's relationship, put yourself out there. But I think that memo hasn't gotten to everybody yet. But I hope that people, you know, you guys are perfect as an example. And we're getting a lot of comments about your passion, about how people can tell you both motivate each other, that you're both so passionate. You're a beautiful couple. It's clearly that you're supporting one another, you know, and that's great too, because you guys also being on the same team, it's like you guys, even within your micro studio, you're always rooting for one another. You're on the same team. You're coming home together. You're just, everything you're doing, like you said, you kind of have the same brain, you're the same mind. That is so helpful because so many people get torn in all these different directions, trying to appease different people in their social circles and their families who don't understand what they're doing. And so that alone is worth its weight in gold, I think.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You guys are models for that. You exemplify that. Okay. So let's end on the future. You guys have some really exciting projects coming up and we want to hear all about them and how we can, of course, support these projects.
Yes. Well, I have a short film premiering on July 13th at the Micho Film Festival in Los Angeles. And that is also a project that was born out of community. It was the Women in Film group that I run, the film Make Hers. One of the directors, Lila Yamtube, had an idea. She wanted to create some characters and maybe make a film one day. So she put it out on our platform. We have like a private group that we chat in, and another actress, Elise Sievert, she said, that sounds like fun. And so the three of us met, we created these characters, and then Lila went back and wrote a script. And then there was a pandemic. And then after the pandemic, we shot it. And Don actually was the DP on that for us.
Wow.
So it was one of those quick, dirty films that you make. Like we did it in a weekend. We did it 2 half days. Like we just kind of, we went out there, we used, the whole thing was like, let's use what we have.
Right.
So Elise has her second child. Her second child has a very cameo, but very important role in the film.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and that's premiering. We're very excited to get it out there. So it's also, you know, about two women that, and motherhood and yeah. So that's me.
Yeah. And I'm in development for a feature film that I wrote and will be directing called The Spirit of Detroit. And we are gearing up to do a reading of the script with some of the actors that are attached to it in Hollywood in very near future. But it's a story about a white photographer who moves to Detroit and his life is completely hijacked by a female 11-year-old black evil genius. She's like, this like brilliant little kid who sort of wants to model herself after the closest like ambitious white guy that she can find. But it's really a story about, I kind of have a bone to pick with how white people will go into a mostly black community like Detroit and kind of come in and be like, I'm bringing this new energy and not find a way to fit into the community. So a lot of the story is just about like a guy that moves into a situation and makes all the mistakes that I would make and screws up hilariously over and over, and how his life is actually turned around by this very eccentric kid.
Oh, that's a powerful message, because in today's day and age, we talk a lot about allyship and trying to get away from that colonial mindset where if you're not the group, how do you support without getting in there and tinkering and saying, oh, we know better and that kind of stuff. So that's a very important message for everybody to see right now. When can we expect that to be out?
We are fundraising, so in any second now, but I don't have a date yet. We hope to be filming that in Detroit within this next year.
Yes.
Wow. We have the first couple of actors attached, including J. Mallory McCree and Angela Lewis, who are both Hollywood-based actors, who another married couple who we have met out here, who are also from Detroit. And are just another incredible power couple.
Yes.
And we kind of have them behind this film, and we're bringing some more folks on now.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so exciting. So where is the best place for people to follow you? I mean, we have the YouTube in here, but like if people want to follow and stalk you, we call that ethical stalking here at the network. Yes. How can people ethically stalk you guys? What is the best place to do that? Everything with Small Media Extra Large.
Well, first thing is we just reclaimed our YouTube channel after years of ignoring it for too long. So we populated it with almost all of our short films, and we're going to continue to put stuff there. So please follow that channel.
Small Media XL. Yes.
On YouTube.
And that's also our Instagram handle, Small Media XL. And then our personal Instagram handles are our names.
Stacie Capone and Don Downie. And you can also find all about our services and connect to all of these things on our website, which is smallmediaxl.com.
Yep. Smallmediaxl.com. Fantastic. That's easy to remember. I love that. Okay, well, Stacie and Don, you have been incredible. I kept you a little bit longer than I promised, but it was just impossible. There's so much more to discuss. I'm hoping we can have you back. We have multiple shows here at Cosmos, so if you can come back at some point and showcase something else or whatever, so we can stay updated with you. Like you said, it's all about relationships, and so many glowing comments from the crowd. And then we want to greet everyone on the replay. Most people will be watching this in the replay, so whenever you're watching this, guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting Cosmos Creative TV, and thank you for supporting Small Media Extra Large.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stacie and Don.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody.